I came to Miller's Field because I had nowhere else to go. The sign was stapled crooked to a telephone pole outside a gas station. Maintenance help needed, meals and room provided. The handwriting looked shaky, but the words were enough. My last job in Houston had ended in silence, the kind where nobody bothers to fire you. I'd been living out of the truck for 3 weeks, eating gas station jerky, counting bills I already knew were gone. The road to the house was long and unmarked, lined with brittle grass, and mailboxes half swallowed by vines. The place appeared all at once, 2 stories, white paint peeled to gray, porch sagging like a mouth that had forgotten how to smile. I expected barking dogs, or the sound of television. Instead, there was only heat, and the slow ticking of insects. A woman in a plain blue dress came down the steps before I could knock. "You're here for the posting," she said. Not a question. She led me inside, where the air smelled of boiled corn and soap. People moved quietly from room to room, 8, maybe 10 of them, setting plates on a long table. Nobody looked surprised to see me. Mother Ellis sat at the head of the table, silver hair pinned neat, eyes sharp behind a smile too patient. "We share what's given," she said. "Work honest, eat honest. That's all we ask." Dinner was beans and cornbread, sweet tea that left a faint numbness on my tongue. They prayed before eating, a slow chant that didn't sound quite like English. I joined in just to be polite. They gave me a cot upstairs, clean sheets, a fan that only hummed when I watched it. I noticed then there were no mirrors, none in the hall, none above the sink. The windows were polished to dull reflection, as if light itself was unwelcome. I told myself it was just a job. Fix the wiring, patch the roof, move on. The people were kind. Too kind maybe, all smiles and lowered eyes. When I worked, they watched quietly from doorways, whispering to each other, like people remembering a song. The nights were harder. The heat pressed against the walls, and even with the fan, the air refused to move. I dreamed of standing in a circle of faces lit from below, their mouths open, chanting the same rhythm as grace before meals. When I woke, the sheets smelled faintly of smoke. I almost left on the second day, but Mother Ellis caught me by the door. "Stay until Sunday," she said. "The Lord sends his helpers for more than one reason." Her hand was dry and light on my arm. I told myself it was harmless, that faith like theirs was just an old habit of the South. I stayed. By the 3rd day, the rhythm of the house had already swallowed me. Work, meal, rest, silence. Every sound seemed muffled, as if the air itself thickened to keep secrets. The others moved quietly through hallways, always in pairs, never alone. They smiled when they saw me, but their smiles stopped at the edges of their mouths. At breakfast, Mother Ellis read from a small book bound in brown cloth. The words slid together, like a stream without punctuation. Everyone repeated them softly, heads bowed. When I asked which scripture it was, she looked at me as if I'd missed the point. "The one written inside," she said, touching her chest. After the meal, I worked on the porch steps. The boards were soft from rot, the nails black with age. The man helping me, his name might have been Luke, spoke only once, to tell me the house was older than any map of the county. "The field remembers what we forget," he said, hammering a nail that bent clean in half. The heat refused to break. Every breath tasted like copper. I started taking my tea, without asking what was in it. It made the hours pass faster, the world softer around the edges. That night, I woke to footsteps above me, slow, deliberate, moving from room to room. When I opened my door, the hallway was empty, but the air still trembled, carrying the echo of motion. I went downstairs, following the faint smell of earth. The door to the basement stood slightly open. A thin strip of light leaked through, steady and pale. I told myself I was just checking for a loose wire. The steps creaked under my weight, though I walked carefully. The light grew brighter as I descended, not like electricity, but like something breathing. At the bottom, I saw them, 12 figures standing round the table. Heads bowed, faces wet with reflected glow. In the center sat a glass bowl, filled with liquid, the color of milk. Mother Ellis spoke, but the words didn't sound human. The syllables rolled, folding into one another, until they became rhythm instead of speech. When she lifted her hand, the others lifted theirs. The motion was perfect, mirrored, rehearsed 1,000 times. Then her eyes found me. She didn't look surprised, only calm, almost tender. "You may as well join us," she said, and her voice echoed through my bones. I remember nodding, stepping forward, feeling the heat rise from the floor, like breath. then nothing. When I woke, it was morning. My clothes smelled of smoke again. No one mentioned the night. The basement door was shut, and when I tried the handle, it didn't move. At breakfast, they acted as if nothing had happened. Mother Ellis asked if I'd slept well. I said yes, though my throat burned from lying. She smiled and poured me more tea. The taste lingered bitter on the back of my tongue, but I drank every drop. Outside, the cicadas screamed so loud. It felt like the air itself was shaking. For the first time, I wondered if the house ever truly slept. By Friday, time had lost its edges. I couldn't tell whether the days were getting longer or shorter, only that the light seemed thicker, slower to fade. The others moved through it like people underwater. I started copying them without realizing it, walking softer, speaking less. I told myself it was exhaustion. Heat, hunger, too much tea. My body had grown light, as if the air inside me had been replaced with something thinner. I'd catch my reflection in a window pane and find it delayed, the movement coming half a breath late. That afternoon, while fixing the back fence, I noticed small holes in the soil, perfect circles, evenly spaced, as if someone had planted something invisible. When I leaned close, the ground pulsed faintly, a breath rising through dust. I covered them with my boot and kept working. The dreams grew stronger. In them, the table glowed like a furnace, and I was standing beside Mother Ellis, whispering words I didn't know but understood. The light filled our mouths. It didn't burn. It hummed. When I woke, the sound followed me into waking. I tried not to sleep, but the heat and the tea dragged me down. Even awake, I began seeing motion in still air, shadows bending where there was nothing to cast them. At dinner that night, Mother Ellis clasped my hand before prayer. Her skin was hot, dry like paper. "You're seeing it now," she said softly. "The world without the lie of light." The stew was darker than usual, almost black. The first bite made my stomach twist, but the second calmed it. Around the table, everyone ate slowly, eyes closed. When I looked down, I saw faint glimmers moving in my bowl, like dust catching sunlight. I ate anyway. Afterward, I tried to speak, to ask what exactly we were praying to, but the words wouldn't come. My tongue felt heavy, my thoughts turned syrupy. The hum inside my head grew steadier, shaping itself into something like music. Later, I went to the window for air. The night was bright, though the moon was gone. Out in the field, white shapes moved in slow circles, bending and rising in rhythm. I couldn't tell if they were people or just the light playing tricks. The next morning, I found soil under my nails and a thin white residue on my wrists that shimmered in the sun. When I tried washing it off, it didn't fade, it just sank deeper into the skin, like it belonged there. I told Mother Ellis I needed to leave. She didn't argue, only asked me to finish my breakfast first. Her tone was kind, almost sad. I ate in silence, pretending it was my choice. When I walked outside to start the truck, the key turned but nothing happened. No click, no churn. Just silence so deep it felt deliberate. I went back inside, and she was waiting in the doorway. "Brother David," she said, "it's all right. You're already home." The word home stayed with me. It echoed long after she'd gone, twisting until it meant nothing at all. I spent that day moving through the house like someone walking underwater. The air shimmered, carrying a low hum that pulsed in time with my heartbeat. Every surface felt alive, the floorboards, the walls, even the dust motes in sunlight. I tried to think clearly. I told myself I'd been drugged, that the tea or the food contained something. It was the only explanation that fit. I needed evidence, something solid. In the kitchen, while the others prayed outside, I searched the cabinets. Behind a stack of jars, I found a wooden box filled with empty capsules. The inside smelled sweet and fungal, like damp soil. My fingers tingled after touching them. When I turned, Ruth was standing in the doorway. Her dress was clean, her face pale with sweat. "It helps us here," she said quietly. "The spores. They open the skin between worlds." I wanted to ask what she meant, but the room tilted. The light deepened, turning gold, then red. I stumbled back, the hum growing louder until it filled everything. My pulse slipped out of sync. Ruth stepped closer, placed a hand on my chest. "Don't fight it. The first time hurts only because you still believe in before." The word before cracked something open in me. Images flooded my truck, the road, a city skyline half dissolved by haze. Faces I might have known. Then the house again, but older, burned out, empty. I blinked, and Ruth was gone. The room stood still, but the smell of earth remained. Outside, the sky had gone the color of ash. The field pulsed faintly, veins of light tracing through the soil. Figures moved between them, bare feet stirring dust. I walked toward them without meaning to. Mother Ellis stood at the center, hands raised. The air trembled around her, thick with heat. When she spoke, the words slid through me like breath. "The seed must die to remember its root." The people knelt. I knelt too. A warmth spread from the ground into my body, crawling through my veins. My vision brightened until I saw only outlines, white against white. For a moment, everything was silent, and then light. Not blinding, not painful. Just total. I felt the edges of myself dissolve, the hum settling into peace. When it faded, the field was empty. The others were gone. The soil smoked faintly where we'd stood. My hands glowed, faint veins of light pulsing beneath the skin. I waited for panic that never came. I went back to the house. Inside, everything looked untouched, the table set, the air still warm from supper. In the mirrorless glass of the window, my face wavered like heat on asphalt. I smiled and didn't recognize the expression. From somewhere below, the hum rose again, calling softly, "Patient." I followed. The basement was colder than before. The air shimmered faintly, a low haze clinging to the steps. The hum came from the table, steady as a pulse. I moved without thinking, one hand trailing the wall, the other holding nothing. The jars still glowed, though softer now, their light beating in rhythm with my breathing. Mother Ellis stood beside them, calm as always. She looked younger, the creases gone from her face, her hair catching the glow like thread. "You've seen enough," she said. "Now you understand what the light wants." I wanted to tell her I didn't believe, that I'd been poisoned, but the words felt childish in my mouth. What difference did it make anymore? The air here wasn't air. It was something alive, listening. She lifted the bowl I'd seen before, the milk-colored liquid now clear as glass. "Drink," she said, "and be still." I did. The taste was nothing, just coolness, a blank flavor that erased everything else. My vision blurred. The hum folded inward until it became silence. When it cleared, I was sitting at the table. The others were back, every face bright, untroubled. The candles burned without flame. Ruth smiled from across the table, her hands folded. "You're home," she said, and for once the word fit. We ate. The food had no weight, no taste. It felt like breathing. The more I swallowed, the less I needed air. The less I remembered hunger. At some point, Mother Ellis reached across and touched my wrist. Her skin felt identical to mine, same warmth, same pulse. "You see," she whispered, "we are what we feed." The thought settled, heavy and perfect. I looked down, and the table's grain pulsed faintly, as if a heartbeat beneath the wood. I could feel it in my chest, matching pace. I don't remember standing, but I was outside again. The night was quiet, the field pale under a moon I couldn't find. In the soil, faint veins of light moved slowly, like roots searching. The hum was everywhere now, no louder than breath. I stayed until dawn. The sun rose wrong, too still, too round, but it didn't matter. The house behind me glowed faintly, windows breathing. From the road, I saw my truck half buried in dust, vines twined through the tires. I didn't feel surprise. Sometimes people still come. They find the sign, or maybe it finds them. They knock, tired, hungry, searching. We welcome them in. There's always room, always supper waiting. I tell them what I once told myself. Just a few days. Fix what's broken. Rest. And they do. At night, I sit on the porch where the air hums gentle as a heart. I think about the city, the noise, the way mirrors once held faces. I can't recall mine exactly, only the warmth of it fading. They said the light lived in us. Now I know it does.